In a small, quiet town, far from big cities and big opportunities, there lived a boy named Daniel. Daniel was not special. He was not the smartest student in school. He was not the fastest athlete. He was not the most popular kid in class. Most teachers believed Daniel would live an ordinary life. But Daniel had something unusual. He had a dream. Every night, Daniel would sit by the window of his small bedroom. He would look at the city lights far away in the distance and imagine a different future. A future where his parents did not have to work every day just to survive. A future where money was not always a problem. A future where he could prove everyone wrong. Because in Daniel's town, people believed something simple. People like them did not become successful. Daniel's father worked in a factory, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. His mother cleaned houses for wealthy families in the nearby city. Every evening when they came home, they looked tired, very tired. But Daniel watched them carefully, and he made a promise to himself. One day, he would change their lives. At school, Daniel was often quiet, not because he had nothing to say, but because people rarely believed in his ideas. One day in class, the teacher asked a question. What do you want to become in the future? Some students said doctor. Some said teacher. Some said engineer. Then it was Daniel's turn. Daniel stood up slowly, and he said something that made the entire class laugh. I want to build a big company. The classroom exploded with laughter. Even the teacher smiled. One student shouted, Daniel, you can't even pass math tests. Another student said, people from this town don't build companies. Daniel sat down quietly, but something inside him became stronger that day. Sometimes people laugh at your dreams, not because your dreams are impossible, but because they are afraid to dream themselves. Daniel understood this very early. When Daniel turned 16, he started working small jobs after school. He delivered newspapers in the morning. He worked in a small grocery store in the evening, and sometimes he helped neighbors fix broken things around their homes. Every dollar he earned, he saved. He did not spend money on games. He did not spend money on clothes. He saved everything. Because Daniel had a plan. One evening, while scrolling through the internet at the local library, Daniel discovered something interesting. People were starting businesses online. Small businesses. Normal people. Some of them were even younger than him. Daniel felt something powerful in that moment. Hope. Maybe success was not limited to big cities. Maybe success was not limited to rich families. Maybe success was simply limited to people who tried. That night, Daniel went home and opened a notebook. On the first page, he wrote 3 simple words: My future company. He began writing ideas, dozens of ideas, selling products online, helping local businesses advertise, building websites, creating digital services. Daniel didn't know exactly how he would do it, but he knew one thing. He would try. Years passed quickly. Daniel finished school. Many of his friends took normal jobs, factory jobs, store jobs, office jobs. But Daniel decided to take a different path. He wanted to build something bigger than himself, something that could change his life and maybe even change the lives of his parents. But dreams are easy. Reality is different, very different. And Daniel was about to discover just how difficult success could be, because sometimes the road to success begins with something painful: failure. And Daniel was about to experience his first one. Daniel was now 18 years old. For most people in his town, turning 18 meant one thing: finding a stable job, working long hours, earning just enough to survive. But Daniel wanted something different. He wanted to build something of his own. With the small amount of money he had saved for years, Daniel decided to start his first online business. It wasn't a big idea, It wasn't revolutionary, but to Daniel, it was everything. He bought a simple laptop, spent hours watching free tutorials online, and slowly began learning how to sell products on the internet. For the first time in his life, Daniel felt like he was moving toward his dream. He spent nights building his small online store, writing product descriptions, uploading photos, trying to understand how online business worked. Every day he refreshed his phone, waiting for something to happen. A notification, a message, a sale. But nothing happened. One day passed, then another. A week passed, still nothing. Daniel told himself to stay patient. Success takes time. At least, that's what every motivational video said. But weeks turned into months, and Daniel's savings slowly disappeared. The money he worked so hard to save was almost gone. Still no success, not a single sale. One evening, Daniel looked at his phone again. Still nothing. He closed his laptop slowly. For the first time, doubt appeared in his mind. Maybe business was not for him. Maybe everyone was right. Maybe he should just find a normal job. But Daniel was stubborn. Instead of quitting, he tried a new idea, a different product, a different website, a different strategy. He believed the first idea simply didn't work. The second one would. But the second business failed too. Then the third. Then the fourth. Each time, Daniel believed he was getting closer, but reality kept pushing him down. Friends began noticing something. Daniel was always busy, always working, but never successful. One day, his friend Mark asked him a simple question. "Daniel, why do you keep trying? You've already failed so many times." Daniel smiled quietly. Then he said something interesting. "Because every failure teaches me something." Mark laughed, but Daniel was serious. By the time Daniel turned 20, he had already tried 10 different business ideas. 10, and every single one had failed. Some failed quickly, some lasted a few months, but all of them ended the same way. No success, no money, only lessons. His family started becoming worried. His mother asked him one night during dinner, "Daniel, are you sure this is the right path?" His father looked at him silently. Daniel could see the concern in their eyes. They loved him. They simply wanted him to be safe. But Daniel had already gone too far to stop. Because something strange happens after repeated failure. At first, failure hurts. Then it becomes familiar. And finally, it becomes a teacher. Daniel began noticing patterns. What worked, what didn't work, why people bought things, why they ignored things. He started understanding business in ways most beginners never do, because most beginners quit too early. But even Daniel had limits. One night, sitting alone in his small apartment, Daniel opened his bank account. The number shocked him. He had almost no money left. His savings were nearly gone. 10 failures, and now almost no resources. For the first time in years, Daniel felt truly afraid. He stared at the screen for a long time and slowly asked himself a painful question. What if this never works? Outside the window, the city lights looked beautiful, but inside Daniel's mind, everything felt dark. The dream that once felt so clear now looked impossible. That night, Daniel faced the most dangerous moment in any dream, the moment when quitting feels logical. And for the first time, Daniel seriously considered giving up. But something unexpected was about to happen, something that would completely change his life. And it would begin with a simple sentence from someone he trusted, his father. That night, Daniel sat alone in his small apartment. The room was quiet, too quiet. The only sound was the soft humming of his old laptop. On the screen was his bank account. The number was painfully small, almost nothing. Daniel leaned back in his chair and stared at the ceiling. For years, he had believed success was just one idea away. One more attempt, one more try. But now, after 10 failures, his confidence was fading. He opened a folder on his laptop. Inside were all his past projects. Business idea number 1, failure. Idea number 2, failure. Idea number 3, failure. The list kept going. 10 attempts, 10 failures. Daniel closed the laptop slowly. For the first time since he started chasing his dream, he felt completely lost. Maybe this dream was too big. Maybe success was only for other people. Maybe people from small towns were not meant to build big things. Daniel stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the city lights were shining. Cars moved quickly through the streets. Somewhere out there, people were living the life Daniel once imagined. But inside his apartment, everything felt heavy. Daniel whispered quietly to himself, "Maybe it's time to stop." Those words felt strange. Daniel had never said them before. The next morning, Daniel visited his parents. He had not planned to tell them anything, but somehow his father noticed something was wrong. Fathers often do. They sat together in the small kitchen. Daniel's father looked at him carefully and asked, "Son, what's going on?" For a moment, Daniel said nothing. Then the words came out, "I think I failed." Daniel explained everything. The businesses, the money, the failures, the doubt. When he finished, the room was silent. His father did not speak immediately. Instead, he stood up slowly and walked to the window. After a moment, he said something Daniel would never forget. "When I was your age, I also had dreams." Daniel looked surprised. His father rarely talked about the past. His father continued, "But life was different for me. I failed once, and I stopped trying. I told myself it was safer that way." He turned around and looked directly at Daniel. Then he said something powerful. "Son, my biggest regret is not my failure. My biggest regret is that I stopped trying." The words hung in the air. Daniel felt something shift inside him. For years, he had believed his father wanted him to take the safe path. But now, he understood something deeper. His father didn't want Daniel to repeat the same mistake. Daniel's father sat down again and spoke calmly. "Failure is not the end. Failure is training. Every mistake you made is teaching you something. But quitting teaches you nothing." Daniel sat there quietly, thinking about every failure, every mistake, every lesson. Suddenly, something became clear. He had not been losing, he had been learning. That night, Daniel went back to his apartment. He opened his notebook again, the same notebook where he once wrote 3 words, "My future company." But this time, instead of writing business ideas, he wrote something different. He wrote everything he had learned from his 10 failures. What customers actually wanted, why his products failed, why people ignored his websites, why his marketing didn't work. For the first time, Daniel stopped chasing quick success. Instead, he focused on understanding the game, understanding business, understanding people, understanding value. He stayed awake almost the entire night, writing, thinking, planning. And when the sun finally began to rise, Daniel looked at his notebook and smiled.
because now he understood something most beginners never learn. Success is not built on ideas. Success is built on lessons. And Daniel had learned 10 powerful lessons. But the biggest test was still coming, because learning something and applying it are two very different things. And Daniel was about to start again, one more time.
The next morning, Daniel woke up with something he hadn't felt in a long time: clarity. For years, he had been chasing success blindly, trying random ideas, copying things he saw online, hoping one of them would magically work. But now, something was different. Daniel finally understood the real problem. He had been trying to make money instead of solving problems. So Daniel changed his approach completely. Instead of asking, "What can I sell?" he asked a different question: "What problems do people actually have?" Daniel spent days researching. He read forums, watched videos, studied small businesses online, and slowly he noticed something interesting. Many small local businesses had terrible websites. Some didn't even have websites at all. Their online presence was weak, outdated, almost invisible. Daniel realized something powerful. These businesses didn't need another product. They needed help, real help. They needed someone who understood the internet, someone who could help them reach customers online. Daniel looked at his notebook again, and for the first time, his business idea felt different. It was simple. He would help small businesses improve their online presence, better websites, better marketing, better visibility. But Daniel knew something important. Ideas alone mean nothing. Execution is everything. So instead of building a perfect plan for months, he took action immediately. Daniel created a simple service, nothing complicated, just something useful. Then he started contacting local businesses, small restaurants, repair shops, hair salons, coffee shops. He introduced himself, explained how he could help them attract more customers online. At first, many business owners ignored him. Some didn't understand what he was offering. Some thought it was unnecessary. Daniel heard the word no many times. But this time, he didn't feel discouraged, because now he understood something. Rejection was normal. Rejection was part of the process. Then something unexpected happened. One small restaurant owner listened carefully. He asked Daniel a few questions, looked at the examples Daniel showed him, and finally said, "All right, let's try it." Daniel couldn't believe it. His first client. Not a big client, not a huge deal, but it was real. Someone believed in his service enough to pay for it. Daniel worked harder than ever before. He improved the restaurant's website, helped them appear in online searches, optimized their menu listings, and slowly, something interesting happened. The restaurant started getting more customers. The owner noticed the difference. More people were finding the restaurant online. More people were walking through the door, and naturally, he told other business owners. Word started spreading. One client became two. Two became four. Four became 10. Daniel suddenly found himself busier than ever before. But this time, the work felt different, because this time, it was working. For the first time in years, Daniel saw real progress. Not instant success, but steady progress. And steady progress is the foundation of real success. Daniel reinvested every dollar he earned. He improved his skills, learned new tools, studied better marketing strategies. Slowly, his service became better, more valuable, more professional. The same people who once laughed at Daniel began noticing something strange. He was changing. His confidence was growing, his knowledge was growing, and his business was growing. But success always brings new challenges. More clients meant more responsibility. More responsibility meant bigger risks. And Daniel was about to face the biggest challenge of his journey so far. Because building a business is much harder than starting one. And the next step would determine everything. Daniel's business was growing, not overnight, not magically, but slowly and steadily, client by client. Every new client brought new challenges, different businesses, different problems, different expectations. But Daniel treated each client the same way. He focused on one thing: helping them succeed. Because Daniel had learned something important. If your clients grow, your business grows. Months passed, then a year. Daniel's small service slowly transformed into a real company. He hired his first assistant, then another. Soon he had a small team working with him, people who believed in the same vision, people who wanted to build something meaningful. For Daniel, this moment felt unbelievable. Just a few years earlier, he had been sitting alone in a small apartment, almost quitting, almost giving up. But now things were different. The same people who once doubted him were starting to respect him. One afternoon, Daniel visited his parents. They were sitting in the same small kitchen where he once shared his fears. Daniel placed his phone on the table. On the screen was his company dashboard. The number showed something incredible. The company had just crossed $1 million in total revenue. His mother covered her mouth in shock. His father stayed silent for a moment. Then he smiled, a proud smile. Daniel looked around the small house where he grew up, and suddenly all the memories came back. The late nights, the failures, the doubts, the moments when quitting felt easier than continuing. Daniel realized something powerful. Success had not come from one big idea. It had come from hundreds of small improvements, from lessons learned through failure, from refusing to quit. Years later, Daniel began sharing his story with young entrepreneurs. People often asked him the same question: what is the secret to success? Daniel would always smile before answering, because the truth was simple. There is no secret. There is only persistence. He explained that failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is part of success. Every mistake teaches something valuable. Every setback builds strength. Daniel often repeated the same message: if you fail once, try again. If you fail 10 times, try again. If you fail 100 times, try one more time. Because most people quit too early, right before things start working, right before the breakthrough, right before success. Daniel's story was not special. He was not the smartest person. He was not the richest person. He simply refused to stop. And sometimes that is the only difference between failure and success: the willingness to continue when everyone else gives up. So if you are struggling today, if your dreams feel impossible, if people around you doubt your path, remember Daniel's story. Success does not belong to the lucky. Success belongs to the persistent. And the next time you feel like quitting, ask yourself one question: what if success is just one more attempt away?